Attention, you're listening to The Todd Huff Show, America's home for conservative, not bitter talk and education. Be advised, the content of this program has been documented to prevent and even cure liberalism, and listening may cause you to lean to the right. And now, coming to you from the Full Suite Wealth Studios, here's your conservative but not bitter host, Todd Huff.
Well, that is right, my friends. You have tuned in to America's home for conservative, not bitter talk. I'm your host, the one and only, the ever so beloved Todd Huff, the dictator here behind the microphone, and it is my pleasure to be here with you today, my friends. We should be well apprised of the fact at this particular point in the 2026 campaign that one thing is abundantly clear, and that is that the Democrat Party is prepared to metaphorically die on the hill of socialism and transgender ideology. And I didn't make it up. I didn't make this an issue. They did. And we're going to talk about this today. I want to start by responding to a couple things or sharing with you some of the absolute lunacy that I hear coming from the left on some of the comments. I don't read 99.9% of the comments, but I'll occasionally, on social media, I will occasionally scan them, and I might respond, I might not. It's just wild. It is absolutely wild what these people think, and they're in our midst, and they're voting for candidates, and they can't articulate why they believe things. They can't have even a disagreement with me. It is astonishing to me how these people behave like not even like juveniles. That's I would say an insult to teenagers out there. Teenagers like we have here in the Huff household. I think that they're more mature, infinitely more mature, and are capable of having adult conversations than some of these folks, many of these folks. Actually, in the godless radical left, I'm not sure a single one of them can actually maintain an adult conversation. It's been said, and I've said it on this program before, I'll say it again. One of the signs of being an adult is being able to entertain an idea without accepting it. And they are truly incapable of doing that. In fact, if they hear something on this program, on a clip that we post online, they respond. They don't respond. They react emotionally by plugging their ears and screaming, la, 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 acting like truly infantile children. It's sad, but I got to tell you, it also, I don't take any pleasure of any human being like this, but I don't know what other reaction to have but to laugh. And it's not even a forced or contrived laugh. It's genuinely just funny to see how they behave. And it is remarkable to me, but they're prepared with that mindset, with that behavior, to die metaphorically on the political hill of socialism and transgenderism. And that's what I want to talk about here today. I've got a recommendation. I've done a 180. These people on Facebook or wherever else I've seen their delusional comments, they've caused me to do a 180. And I've got a recommendation here for the WNBA off the top that I would love for them to take, my friends. Maybe you've reached that stage where managing your money feels like juggling more than just numbers. You've got tax planning, estate work, investment choices, a whole lot more. That's when family office services can really make a difference. Full Suite Wealth brings all those pieces together into one cohesive strategy. Their family office services gives you access to a coordinated team with advanced options, strategies, private equity, private credit, and legal expertise. All those things, my friends, under one roof. It's about simplifying your financial life, planning for the future, and making sure your legacy stays strong for generations to come. If you are ready for that next level of support, head on over to fullsuitewealth.com. That's fullsuitewealth.com. Build your legacy, secure your future. future. So I want to make a recommendation. I've spoken a lot about, well, a little bit yesterday, or maybe earlier this, maybe on Monday. Sophie Cunningham, I think it was Monday. Sophie Cunningham's comments stirred up a lot of anger in the WNBA from the trans movement and so forth. We talked about the confrontation between the coach of the Minnesota, the Lynx, I guess, and Sophie Cunningham. Look, I don't come here and make this an issue, by the way, my friends. In fact, I hear some comments that say, you people, talking about people like me on the right, you people are sick and disgusting. Don't you have anything better to talk about? Well, I'm not the one. I'm not the one that created this issue. In fact, if you want to know who created this issue, look in the mirror. Look at the people on the left of this political argument. And I think about this sometimes. I think, the amount of energy that has been placed into creating this issue, and and people like me are called out for being the ones who want to discuss it. I don't want to discuss this, my friends. I did not make this an issue. I mean, you have people out there, and it starts in younger sports. You have parents who have a child who is a boy who says that he's a girl because there's been, look, this didn't exist like it did. I don't care what they say. I don't care how vociferous they become about it. This phenomenon did not happen to the extent that it happens today at any other point in our history. This simply didn't happen. You have biological boys who insist that they are girls. And then you have people who support this, who applaud this. You have parents in some cases who have multiple children who identify as transgender. And instead of thinking there's something going wrong there with the parenting, instead of thinking this is a form of parental abuse, we have people applauding this and saying that this is wonderful, that they've encouraged their kids to come out like this, right? To make these statements that they are in fact a boy when they're a girl or vice versa. Then they say, well, if you feel like a girl and you're a boy, then you're a girl. And so obviously we got to do girl things. And they start, in some cases, dressing them in girl clothes and introducing them to makeup and girls' toys and all these sorts of things. And along comes girls' sports. So they take their boy, who's not a boy in their mind, and they say you're a girl. So obviously, since you're a girl, you should play girl sports. And they dress up these boys and bring them onto playing fields and insist that they're girls. And the rest of us are supposed to just not have any problem with this whatsoever. Listen, I'm not going to stand by and let that happen. I'm the parent of 3 children, and I'm not going to participate in that. Now, that makes some people uncomfortable, but I say, who's the one that's created this? Who's the one that's created an alternate view of reality? They have totally denied the real reality and have found themselves completely divorced from it, and now they're living in a world of delusion. Now, again, my heart goes out. It truly does. I know some people don't think this. They think that I hate these people. That is not the case at all. It is not healthy. It is not good. There's nothing good that comes from this. In some places, we've got parents who then take their kids to the doctors and talk about things like hormone blockers, and they talk about things like life-altering permanent surgeries. This literally happens. There's doctors out there who on the first visit with someone will start talking with them about some of these very things, hormone blockers and all these other things. First, second visit, and you'll see that very quickly that they're all about this. Yeah, it's a great thing. You ought to do this, ought to consider this. What's puzzling to someone like me is that they've literally spent all this time telling us that your gender does not have to align with your biological sex, but then some people want to have their children permanently try to change their biological sex, which they can't do. All they can do is physically mutilate themselves, which is absolutely sad. The number of kids whose lives have been ruined from this, they'll come back as adults. There's cases of this, and they're actually trying to get people to listen. to their stories. They wish that an adult in the room would have stopped them from doing these things in the past, permanently harming themselves, going through hormone therapy, all these sorts of things, puberty blockers. It's just a sad, sad situation. Yet someone like me, by talking about it, after this stuff is forced upon us at every turn in society, in sports, I'm the one in the minds of some people who's making this an issue. I'm not making this an issue. They've made it an issue. I am going to talk about it when I feel like it. And it's preposterous. It is insane. So this has gone to the WNBA level. We talked about this. Sophie Cunningham of the Indiana Fever came out recently in an article with ESPN and said that she would like to see she would like to see girls' sports protected from this sort of stuff. Shouldn't have boys or men in the locker room. They should be able to compete against other women. Men are biologically stronger and faster. These, by the way, are facts of life. And I've learned that people on the left have a tremendous difficulty in accepting the facts of life. You don't have to want to accept the facts of life, my friends. You just have to be willing to accept truth. And this is a problem. This is a problem that many on the left have today. And so we've talked about this on the program. And I came across something yesterday after some comments that I'd gotten. I've done a 180, right? I've been a staunch defender, outspoken critic of this sort of nonsense. I've got, like, as I mentioned, I've got kids that this could impact and so forth. Trying to protect girls' sports. Trying to be a voice of reason out there. And it far transcends girls' sports. Some people say, what's it matter? We got all these problems in the world. Well, I'll tell you what it matters. You cannot have a society. You cannot have a society that is built to last and survive if it is built and predicated upon lies. There's no way it can stand. It cannot stand morally. It cannot stand from an intellectual perspective. You cannot have a postmodern anti-truth society and expect to be able to flourish in it. If they are attacking and successfully attacking, which they, of course, never can from a factual perspective, but if they get a lot of people prepared to just are willing to throw their hands up and to just accept these things as fact and try to ignore them and move on with their lives, if you think that that's where this is going to stop, and that if you think that that doesn't have any other impact upon your local school system, upon your city council, upon your town council, upon your school board, your senators, your House of Representatives members, president, governor, all these things, the society that you live in, the way businesses are run, the way your kid is educated in both high school and college, if you think that that will not impact anything else, someone's absolute desire to refuse to accept truth and then to demand that you accept the same delusion. If you think that that's where this ends, my oh my, you've got some, I would say, some growing up to do, because that is simply not how this works. These people are rabid. In fact, I got a comment yesterday that I got to share with you. Again, I don't read 99.9% of these. We get a lot. And I'm not going to say her name. I am going to say that she's identified herself to me as Doctor. Doctor. In this post, I'm just going to read what it says. This was a post. I don't even know what this original post. Yeah. The post I made, it was just a clip of the show, 20 seconds long, says that there's one person in the WNBA who can define what a woman is. And that's Sophie Cunningham, which I think right now is absolutely true. Unless there's other people that have come out that have just, again, to properly define the term and to come out and say that there should not be biological men and women's sports. I would include them in this group too, but right now that's primarily Sophie Cunningham. So you've got this doctor here. I mean, I guess I can say her last name. If this is not to dox or anything, this is just, I'll just call her Dr. S. How about that? So she responds, a lengthy comment here, definition of a woman, ? A disingenuous question. She says, I'm being disingenuous because I say the other side can't define a woman. This is preposterous. There's been a movie made Matt, what is it? I'm drawing a blank on his name. I actually like him a lot. Can see his face. Anyway, with the Daily Wire. Did a whole documentary where he asked these people, he goes undercover, and he asks them what a woman is. And they respond with nonsensical answers. They never define it. A woman is someone who identifies as a woman. In fact, he went and spoke with a person who led the gender studies department at one particular college or university. And that was the answer given by the individual who ran the gender studies department. A woman is a person who identifies as a woman. Yeah, but what is that? What is that exactly? This upset that individual so much that he said, I don't like the tone of this interview. I think I need to excuse myself. I think eventually the interview came to a screeching halt. But anyway, she said that's a disingenuous question for me to ask. I'm waiting for them to be able to do it. And she acts like they can do it, or that and I just haven't accepted what it is. Anyway, she goes on here. The only people that can't define a woman are those asking the question. I've never had a problem defining a woman, Dr. S. This is someone who claims to be a doctor. Now, I don't know if she's a medical doctor. I don't even know if she is a doctor. But she claims to be here in her signature. I don't know if she's a PhD would make more sense if it was at some leftist university. But nonetheless, she said the only people that can't define a woman are those asking the question. Google is your friend. I'm not, because I really get fed up, I guess, with people bringing this up thinking it's a gotcha. First of all, again, I didn't bring this up. The left has pushed this down our throats. I'm responding and fighting this. I am illustrating the absurdity of this silly stuff, and they think I'm the one causing the problem. So here we go. The Cambridge Dictionary defines a woman as an adult female human being and an adult who lives and identifies as female. There we go. I guarantee this has been changed. In fact, I went back to the definitions given in good old Noah Webster's dictionary back in the 1800s. Used to, the dictionary of a woman was the female of the human race grown to adult years. And I went ahead and looked up female in Noah Webster's dictionary as well. One of that sex which conceives and brings forth young. Pretty straightforward. But that was back in the 1800s, back before this woke trans agenda hits the pages. But kudos to Cambridge for at least getting one of the two definitions right, where it says a woman is an adult female human being. That's exactly what it is, by the way. Kudos. But you won't find people. Ask them. Ask Ketanji Brown Jackson, Supreme Court Justice sitting now in the Supreme Court, was asked during her confirmation hearings what a woman was, and she said, I'm not a biologist. Just go down the list. Look at all of these folks in sports that have been asked since this transgender athletes has become a thing. Ask the politicians. This is not uncommon. I don't know where Dr. S is living, what rock she's living under, but the idea that people on the left that are part of this rabid trans movement can identify a woman is absolutely absurd, because they cannot. She goes on to talk about further, every legitimate, got Dr. S tells me, major medical association in the world, AMA, APA, she lists them here. WHO, World Health Organization as well, she threw in there, has called for trans women to be treated as cisgender women in society. I don't care, Dr. S. That's an argument from authority. Explain to me why. You can't just quote a dictionary definition and then simply tell me that all these medical organizations that are funded by these growing governments, that are funded by the trans agenda in part, somehow think that this is somehow that this makes sense, because it doesn't. The reason for this, she says, is abundantly clear. Trans women are not men. How is that abundantly clear? This is a doctor, supposedly. A doctor says that trans women are not men. Again, trans in the conversation of Transgenderism means fake. So fake, I'm not trying to be mean. I'm just trying to make this easy to understand. Trans means fake. Fake woman is biological man. They absolutely are biological men. She says that they're not. She says she's a doctor. And although she says they are born with the sex of male, gender is based upon how the brain develops in utero before birth. Innate gender is unchangeable, biological, real, natural, and deserves the same dignity and respect given to people that are born with much more obvious natural occurrences, such as variations often discriminated against, such as darker skin color, shorter height, and left-handedness. Dr. S signs off on this. I got to be honest, because I scanned this so quickly, I only saw the first definition, or the latter definition, which says that a woman is someone who lives and identifies as female. And I said, you didn't tell us what a woman is, though, because this is the problem. Anyway, but this is rampant. I didn't cause it. I didn't create this. I didn't force this. I'm not. And I don't speak for anybody, but I know that there's millions who agree with this. We're not participating in this delusion. We're not. However, because of comments like this that I've seen out there and the insistence that people like me accept these folks and say that they're female, I have a recommendation for the WNBA. I do. I've done a 180 on this, my friends. Yes, I've done a 180 for the WNBA. I've been trying to stand on the side of Sophie Cunningham and to keep say that this is crazy, that we shouldn't be playing this game and so forth. But I've got a recommendation out there. People are saying that there's nobody that's even trying to do this in the WNBA. Bet me they're not. In fact, I think that we should do what I'm going to recommend in the next segment, because I'm out of time here in this first segment. Friend, here's a question for you. Do you know where your money goes after you spend it? If that answer makes you cringe, it's time to check out Freedom Marketplace. We built this program to connect conservatives like you with businesses that share your values, businesses that refuse to support leftist, deranged nonsense, delusional stuff. So this is free for you to use. You don't have to create a login. You can if you want, but that's not the point of this. This is about keeping your dollars aligned with your principles. Visit freedommarketplace.net today. That's freedommarketplace.net. Liberty and business for all. Time out here behind the microphone. If you're watching on social media, I'm going to discontinue this stream and we'll pick up a new one here in just a moment, my friends. If you're listening on radio or podcast, sit tight. We'll be back here in just a minute. Welcome back, my friends. As I said off the top, the radical left is prepared to metaphorically die on the political hill of socialism and the transgender ideology. We're talking about that here today. Going through some of the crazy things that I have heard, in one case from an alleged doctor, which I shared with you last segment. Let me tell you, I want to shift gears here, and I want to make a recommendation in this segment to the WNBA. I've been told that no one is out there calling on the WNBA who's a trans athlete to participate. And I'm not sure that that's true. There's this individual playing in a league in France named Julie Titart, if I'm pronouncing that correctly. I don't know how to say some of these names from France, but he is 6'3". He's a trans player. And he said, and according to an interview in Fox News, that he would join a WNBA team if called. And let's just talk about this particular athlete, which, again, none of this about what I'm going to tell you should surprise you, except for possibly my recommendation to the WNBA. So, friends, you know that we partner with MyPillow on this program for a long time, several years now. They are a company based right here in America. They make products from Minnesota, and that's where Mike Lindell, their founder and president, is now running for governor. Patriotic company. They make great products. I use their products. their pillows. They've got sheets and towels. We have a dog bed in this house. We've got slippers, my friends, a whole lot more. These are comfortable products made by an American patriot right here in the good old US of A. Go to mypillow.com. Use promo code Todd to get discounts on these products. mypillow.com/Todd. You can go there as well. Use promo code Todd to get discounts on a wide variety of products that will make you more comfortable and help give you a better night's sleep. mypillow.com, promo code Todd. All right, so let me just state this. So there's a 6'3" trans woman playing in a league in Europe named Julie Tetart. He said he would join a WNBA team if they called. Tetart averages 21 points and 20 rebounds this season. If you haven't seen Tetart, just look this up, or I'll put it in today's stack of stuff, this article where you can see who this player is. This player is built like a man because this player is a biological man. So, he has, listen to this. This, again, should not be surprising. He has won I think he won all of these in this most recent season. He won Player of the Year. He won Defensive Player of the Year. And he won Domestic Player of the Year, but I don't know what's up with that. I don't know, that seems like that shouldn't belong there. What is that? Domestic Player of the Year? Are we separating our players based upon whether they are foreign or domestic? I don't know about that. The woke needs to jump in here and make themselves make their opinions known. I mean, he's putting up Caitlin Clark-like numbers, and he's actually getting credit for putting up such numbers because he fits the politics of the league, of what these leagues are looking for. And so after all of the woke comments I've gotten, all of the things I've listened to coming from the left, from politicians, from doctors out there telling me just how wrong I am about this, I'd like to get this directly to Cathy Engelbert, the Commissioner of the WNBA. I've been a vocal supporter, very vociferous in my support for keeping men out of women, biological men out of women's sports. I've been vocal. I've been on the side of Sophie Cunningham. But I think upon further consideration here and thinking about this, I would like to encourage the WNBA to have one of their teams call Julie Tetart here. I think they need to sign Julie Tetart. And I think if they don't, that's a clear transphobic message to the rest of the world. That's what I think. And I think Cathy Engelbert needs to be aware of this. I think Coach Reeve of the Lynx needs to be aware of this. Why hasn't this individual been called sooner? He's clearly dominant, averaging 21 points and 20 rebounds. This is Wilt Chamberlain out there. You know, you used to say men amongst boys. You say men amongst girls, I guess. I don't know. But anyway, if they don't sign him, if she doesn't get a WNBA franchise to sign him, I would say that that's clearly transphobic. And the silence is violence. That's what I think. I'm just telling you from a perspective. The left has gotten through to me on this. They have changed my perspective, changed my ways. And I think that if they are silent on this is showing absolute violence against the trans community. I think it's transphobic. I think that they need to sign this man who claims he's a woman, let him play in the W, right? W stands for women's. But let's make this known. Let's make it known that trans women are women. This is a great chance for the WNBA to come out and to make this known, to put to rest this debate. Where do they really stand on this issue? This is an opportunity for them to put their money where their mouth is. Listen, folks, I've learned the error of my ways through the ever so loving left who calls me all sorts of terrible names because I have been against trans women playing in women's sports, biological men playing in women's sports. Again, they've convinced me through their just incredibly articulate and ever so well thought out and very patient too, right? I've learned that about the left. They're very patient. If you disagree with them, they want to understand where the level of disagreement is. They never call you names. They always focus on substance. And this has impacted me tremendously. It has. It's made me realize that it's time for the WNBA to do this. Do it. Quit being transphobic. Use your platform like Coach Reeves says, right? Like Coach Reeves says, and do not exclude anyone. We can't exclude anyone from playing in the W. I think we can get this done, and I think it's time that we move on. Because listen, we've been here for a long time. They've been fighting for men to fight in women's sports for some time. We need to move on to another place where we can fight for other people who are excluded. I looked into this. I'm looking here at notes. I never really take notes. I come on here and talk to you, but I wrote down notes because I want to make sure I hit everything that I want to say here. Do you know, it's 2026, my friends, and there is a sport. I looked this up. I had Chat or Claude 1 give me an exhaustive list of sports. Do you know, I've seen highlights of this, but I'd forgotten this. I wouldn't have thought of this on my own. That there is a sport in 2026 that's called wife carrying. Wife, W-I-F-E, wife carrying in 2026. I think we need to get the trans issue fixed in the WNBA so that we can then move on and get this is an easy one to get fixed. We can't just be carrying wives around. What is this? Why not trans wives? This needs to be fixed immediately. Immediately. I've also thought there's a thing called the Iron Man. My brother used to participate, I should say, I don't know what the word is. It's a 2.4 mile swim, 112, I think, bike ride, 112 mile bike ride, and then a full marathon. It's an incredible test of endurance. But what is up with this? It's 2026. Iron Man? No. We can't have that. That needs to be fixed as well. And we can't fix that until we fix this issue here in the WNBA. And besides the fact, did anyone ask the Iron Man how Z identifies? Did we do that? I don't know that we did. I think that we need to get this problem solved. Hobby horsing is something else that needs to be brought into the 21st century. Hobby horsing, where people walk around on these stick horses and do jumps and so forth. I don't know if you've ever seen this, but there's probably someone out there who identifies as a hobby horse. And I think we need to make sure that they're included with all the other hobby horses. And if we don't do this, then we're all bigots for thinking this. This needs to be addressed. Stop being a bigot. Hobby horsing needs to be moved into the 21st century. That can't be done until or unless the WNBA fixes its problems for not accepting trans women in their sport. I mean, folks, there's so many things that I got more things to get to, but I'm up against the clock. We need to get this done. They've persuaded me. What else can I say? They've persuaded me, my friends. I've got to take a quick time out. If you're watching on social media, I'm going to stop this stream and start a new one. If you're listening on radio, you know the drill. We'll be back here, my friends, in just a minute. Welcome back, my friends. The WNBA needs to get this done. Cathy Engelbert, you're going to have to get to this. The left has already showed us politically that they are prepared to metaphorically die on the hill of transgenderism and socialism. This is a great opportunity for the W to solve this problem of putting trans women in women's sports. With this athlete from overseas. He said he would play if he got the call. Encourage someone to do it. If you don't, if a franchise doesn't do this, we have no other way of interpreting this than this is an anti-trans, transphobic decisions. I got my decision. I got more to say. I don't have a lot of time here in the last segment, but more to my friends to say about this. But if you're dealing with discomfort and you're tired of living off of prescriptions, managing those side effects, you're not alone, friends. A lot of folks are looking for something natural they can trust. That's why I want you to check out Christopher's Organic Botanicals, a family-run natural kratom company rooted in truth, tradition, and transparency. They partner directly with farmers in Indonesia. They lab test everything before it ever reaches your hands. There's no hype or synthetics. There is no funny business. It's just the real deal, my friends, done right. Real kratom is tested. It's responsibly sourced. It is not a synthetic. That's where those horror stories come from. Synthetic garbage that are sold to the public by shady sellers. So this is a fit for you. Start with their Kratom Starter Pack. Coupon code Todd Huff will save you 10%. Christopher'sOrganicBotanicals.com. That's Christopher'sOrganicBotanicals.com. Truth, tradition, transparency. Okay, I want to get to this. I'm not going to get to all of this, but friends, a few years ago, while my father-in-law was still living, he shared a story with my wife and I about someone he had met, and this woman had shared with him and with others in a group. I don't know how this became a topic of discussion, but she shared that her daughter identified as a wolf, and her friends identified as wolves as well. And as I think about this, and I think about the progress we need to make, progressivism, and how they've persuaded me through their airtight arguments and their pro-science perspectives on genetics and gender and XY chromosomes and XX chromosomes, all that stuff. They're so, and just how they present that in such an understandable, step-by-step, easy way. They never yell at you for no reason. I mean, it's just that they've won me over on this particular issue by their love and by their messaging and by the truthfulness of what they're telling us, right? And so it's time for the WNBA to sign to open this up to trans women. I mean, that's the only way to know that they're not transphobic, because again, we've got bigger problems to finish. But I'm thinking if people identify as wolves, there have to be people who identify as dogs. Wolves and dogs are ancestors of wolves. So let's just assume that that's the case, because there's sports that include things like dog shows. There's dock diving. If you've ever seen that, where they run to the end of the dock and jump out there in the water. There's dog obedience. I don't know where I come down on that one. I'm waiting for the left to tell me, is that a good thing? If we have a trans dog in the mix, what do we do about that? I don't even know. I mean, I'm confused as to what to do beyond that. I'm just trying to take this one step at a time as the left and the woke tell me how to interpret and apply these things to my life. But listen, I mean, we've got horse racing and auto racing. We've got dressage for horses. I mean, I'm sure that there's trans, people who identify as that. Let's get to these other issues. These are being ignored, my friends. So if the WNBA embraces trans women, Cathy Engelbert, and her in the league can virtue signal to the rest of the world, and so that we know where they come down on this issue truly, and we know that they're not really transphobic, that's what should happen. And then when that happens, and I hope you recognize, if you've not listened to this program long, this is all insanity, what we're talking about here today, because again, this is a byproduct of what it means to have a morally bankrupt ideology that's built upon the sand. There is no truth or anything in it. It is anti-truth. And by the way, it even pained me to pretend like I meant those words I've said in the second segment in this segment, because the radical left is rabid. They will attack you for no reason. It doesn't bother me. It entertains me. But I know it bothers a lot of people, because that's one of the main reasons why people do not stand up against this stuff. Anyway, but once they do their virtue signaling and get the approval from the powers that be on the godless radical left, I hope that every reasonable woman, like Sophie Cunningham, leaves the WNBA. Caitlin Clark, I know she doesn't want to get into this, and I'm actually sympathetic to that. Like, she just wants to play basketball. I do believe that. But there is no fence anymore, my friends. I've shared a story when I went to a Fellowship of Christian Athletes football camp years ago. There was a skit where a person was out there and they had the proverbial angel on one shoulder or the demon on one shoulder trying to tempt them to do something wrong, and the angel on the other one trying to steer them right. And they didn't know what to do, and they said, we're just going to sit here on the fence, to which the demon said, that's great because I own the fence. There is no more fence sitting on this topic. And I hope that they do this, and I hope that all the women who have sense leave this league, and I hope that they start something else, because that's the one that most Americans will watch, my friends. I'm out of time here. I thank you so much for joining us today. Hope you have a great day. Thanks for listening. Be tough, SDG.